So, and just as a just to kind of set the stage and set expectations, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section of chat, and I will get to them at the end during the Q&A session. So with that, I'll get started. So Orca is a macOS platform that stands for Orchestration on Kubernetes with Apple. It allows you to manage macOS hardware resources in as Kubernetes node resources, and allows you to easily scale out deployments such that you're able to easily manage a fleet of Mac machines from a central location without having to individually manage each individual machine. So um, we as Orca uh, is a software platform. We don't it runs anywhere. So we don't care if your Orca doesn't care if your bare metal Mac nodes are hosted at Mac Stadium, if they're in AWS, if they're on your on-prem data center. All that Orca needs is Mac hardware and somewhere to run Kubernetes. So the main use cases for Orca are CI/CD pipelines. So your typical Jenkins or GitHub Actions pipelines, but we also have use cases for AI inference and other kind of generic Mac OS workloads. So as I noted previously, we integrate in with a lot of different CI tool providers. So we have a Jenkins and a GitHub Actions, GitLab, Buildkite, Tekton, and TeamCity plugin. Um, all of these allow for both static and ephemeral runners. So you can either have a pool of runners that you can easily refresh but are static and always on, or you can have a an architecture where you have a new VM spun up and ready to go for each new job. Um, the main way that users interact with Orca is going to be through our CLI, but we also have a fully documented featured API in case you need to write tooling around your Orca cluster for any additional management that you want to do. And then we also have a web-based GUI if you just want to check in on your cluster and see like what VMs are up and running and just kind of get a general health check. Um, so I talked about this a little bit on the first slide, but from a very high level, what Orca does is we have the bare metal Mac hardware, and on top of that sits Apple's virtualization framework. Um, so that is what we leverage to spin up Mac VMs. And then from there, you're able to deploy Mac VMs on top of the Apple hardware and then run your application inside of said VM. So from here, I'm going to go into an Orca demo where I'll show the ability to spin these VMs up and what that process looks like. And then I'll show what that would look like from a Jenkins point of view. And then I'll take questions. So I'm going to switch over to um, my terminal here and get logged in real quick. And Emily, can you confirm that you're able to see this just fine? The sizing is good?
Yes. Yes, looks good.
Awesome. Thank you. So the first command that I've run here is Orca node list. It shows a variety of nodes that are in the cluster that I have access to here. I've got a couple of M4 studios or a couple of M4 minis. I have an M2 studio, a couple of different versions of an M2 mini and an M1 mini. So obviously Orca is able to accommodate heterogeneous hardware types for a cluster deployment. So if you have some heavy workloads that you would have for, say, a release build that you want to throw more resources at or throw a faster machine at, you would be able to deploy that workload on a faster or a more performant machine, and then you could have smaller machines that you would be able to um, deploy kind of more day-to-day workloads on, so to say. So these are the like bare metal Mac nodes that back the cluster. The next command that I'm going to run is Orca image list. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller so that it looks better. But this is a list of VM images or Orca images that you are able to deploy VMs from. So each of these different images has a different base state and a different set of dependencies that's been installed on them. So, for example, this Jenkins image has all of the prerequisites to be used as a Jenkins ephemeral runner. So I've got Java installed, I've got like Xcode installed, I've got a variety of different things to be used as just kind of a generic Jenkins runner. For some of these other VM or some of these other images, I have just like a base Sequoia and Sonoma VM. So you're able to use various different major macOS versions simultaneously across the cluster. So you don't need to keep one subset of machines on one OS version, another subset of machines on another OS version. You're just able to have a different image for each different use case or different kind of build target that you have. And then you're able to deploy those on whichever machine you would like. So to that point, we have uh, hardware to deploy the VMs on, and we have images um, to deploy VMs from. So I will run Orca VM deploy, and then I will specify an image. I'll just grab the Sonoma image. And then in just a couple seconds, I will have a VM up and running. So this VM, by default, we have VNC, SSH, and Apple screen sharing connectivity to. So if I were to run SSH and log into this machine, I would be able to see that this is a Mac VM or like a Mac host on ARM64. You can see that it's running as a VM, and it looks like any other Mac machine that you would have like sitting somewhere in the office, available to do whatever you would like to configure. So this is one of the like very basic images, but you would be able to install a variety of different dependencies on here to uh, work on whatever workload that you might have. So to kind of play off of that, I'm going to show how Orca integrates with Jenkins, and this can the way that it integrates with Jenkins can also be kind of extended out to a variety of different other CI tools. So the way that you'll see this integrate with Jenkins is very similar to the way that you would see it integrate with GitHub Actions or TeamCity. So I'm going to switch the screen that I'm sharing, and then I'm going to go over to here, and I'm going to run this Hello World Jenkins I'm going to run this Hello World Jenkins build. This build is super simple. It just spins up an Orca. It takes an Orca agent. It echoes Hello World. The uname, it sleeps for 30 seconds, and then it finishes the build and gets rid of the VM. So if I go back to the dashboard and I hit play here, and I go back to Orca, I can run Orca VM list, and you should see that I now have a Jenkins VM up and running, and this is the SQWFC VM. If I go back to Jenkins and reload the page, you can see the SQWFC VM. This is up and running. We can go in and we can see that it's running the steps that I gave it earlier, or that I showed earlier. And then if we wait, hopefully just a few more seconds, we will see this build completes successfully. and then I'll be able to go back into the Orca CLI, and you'll be able to see that the VM automatically gets spun back down. So we see finished with success. If I go here, there's no builds running. We can see the latest success was like 50 seconds ago. And then if I go back here and run Orca VM list again, you can see that this Jenkins VM is no longer running. So that's the general workflow. This works with more complex builds as well. So you can basically anywhere that you would have a label for a build executor in Jenkins, you would be able to input in Orca VM for that as well. So that's the demo for the day. Do we have any questions in chat so far? Let me pull up the Q&A. I don't see any questions for the moment. So I'll give the group a moment to throw any additional questions in that may have popped up. But other than that, okay, so we've got a question. How are the instances connected to Jenkins? So the image itself that has the image itself that is being launched when Jenkins runs. So if I run another build and I look at the Orca VM list, I'm able to see that the image that it's running off of is it's got to launch first. Give me just a second for this VM to finish launching, and then I'll be able to talk about this a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, so this is running off of the Jenkins image. So if I run Orca VM or Orca image list, you can see that I've got this Jenkins image here. This Jenkins image has Java installed on it. When Jenkins deploys the VM, so when I run this build with the Orca with the Orca label on it, Jenkins reaches out to the Orca API, launches that VM, and then takes the connection credentials that we saw earlier. So if I run Orca VM list and give it this name, well, it's already finished running, but it's got these connection credentials specifically for SSH. These are passed back to Jenkins. Jenkins connects with those, and then through the Java connection that it has, connects to that VM to configure the kind of Orca integration with Jenkins itself. We have a Jenkins plugin. So if I go to clouds here in Jenkins, you're able to see that I've got this cloud configured, and this is the Orca cluster that the VMs are running on. There's a service account that Jenkins is using. And then I've defined this this VM in here with a number of CPUs, the image it's using, and then a variety of other just kind of configuration parameters. But this is where you would configure Orca to this is where you configure Jenkins to be able to interact with the Orca cluster, and you define the VM types that Orca uses. Does that, I hope that answers the question. If you've got any others, feel free to, awesome. Glad that answered your question. If that is, if that's it on the question, right? Yes. So another question that came in is there a GitLab integration? So yes, we have a GitLab integration. Um, the GitLab integration works a little bit differently than the Jenkins integration, just because of how it's architected. So there were for GitLab, you have your GitLab instance running. Um, you would then have um, a controller that connects to your like a Docker container or a yeah Docker container that connects to your GitLab instance. That controller would register with GitLab, and then when similar to Jenkins, when GitLab says that it's got a job for a specific label, I think is the term in GitLab, but when a job runs with a specific label that matches the one defined on the controller will pick up that job, deploy an Orca VM on the Orca cluster, and then register that VM as a runner for GitLab, and then the job will be pushed to that VM. And then similar to Jenkins, when the job is done, that VM would be spun down. Awesome. Uh, Another question, are there specs for each VM configurable on GitLab as well as Jenkins? Yes, there is. You're able to configure um, the GitLab VMs in much the same way that you do on Jenkins. And actually, let me see if I can pull up. I don't have a demo available for it, but think I can pull up the docs and we can send it to you afterwards. But there may be a um, there may be an example in here. Um, yeah, so and actually this I can show this. So in GitLab, you give it an Orca config name. So in Orca, you're able to create a VM config, which um, in which you define an image, much this like in the same way that you would for Jenkins. And then you're also able to give it a CPU parameter. And then there's a variety of other things that you're able to set the um, in the VM config parameter like creation. But for the most part, people will just give an image and a number of CPUs that they want, and then kind of everything else is auto sized from there. Pull up Q&A again. Uh, and then sounds like that answered the question, which is awesome. Um, if there's anything else that any other questions, feel free to keep putting them in chat. Otherwise, if that's it, I believe we will send a recording of this webinar out to participants so that um, you're able to distribute this internally and review later if you want to forget something or wanted to double check functionality. Um, but I think that is most everything that I had to share today. And I'm not seeing any other questions come in, so I think we're probably good to end it for the week. And if anybody here wants to come to any more of these, I think we're gonna keep running them, and we may change up the topic every once in a while. So keep an eye on your email, and we'll have fun stuff for you in the future. It was good talking with everyone today, and hope you have a good rest of your week and a nice weekend.